Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadari Gopijana Vallabha Giri Varadari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories of the assembled devotees, all glories of the assembled devotees, all glories of the assembled devotees, all glories of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Fifth Canto, The Creative Impetus, Chapter 18, The Residents of Jambudvipa offer prayers. Text 10. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Magara Daratmaja Vitta Bandushu Sango Yadi Syad Bhagavat Priyeshu Naha Yaha Prana Ditya Paritushta Atmavan Siddhyat Aduran Na Tatendriya Priyaha Magaradarat Majavita Bandushu Sango Yadi Syad Bhagavat Priyeshu Naha Ya Prana Vitya Paritushta Atmavan Siddhyat Yaduran Tatendriya Priyaha Magaradarat Majavrita Bandushu Sango Yadi Syar Bhagavat Priyeshu Naha Pranavritya paritushta atmavan siddhyat yuduranatindriya priyaha Magaradharatmaja vitta bandhushu Sango yadi syad bhagavat priyeshinaha Pranavritya paritushta atmavan Siddhyat yuduranatindriya priyaha. Please chant. Anyone else? Tyler? Ma, not. Agara, house. Dara, wife. Atmaja, children. Vitta, bank balance. Bandeshu, bandushu, among friends and relatives. Sangaha, association or attachment. Yadi, if. Syat, there must be. Bhagavat priyeshu, among persons to whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very dear. Naha, of us. Yaha, anyone who. Pranavritya, the bare necessities of life. Paritushtaha, satisfied. Atmavan, who has controlled his mind and realized his self. Siddhyati, becomes successful. Adurat, very soon. Na, not. Tata, so much. Indriya priyaha, a person attached to sense gratification. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My dear Lord, we pray that we may never feel attraction for the prison of family life, consisting of home, wife, children, friends, bank balance, relatives, and so on. If we do have some attachment, let it be for your devotees, whose only dear friend is Krishna. A person who is actually self-realized and who has controlled his mind is perfectly satisfied with the bare necessities of life. He does not try to gratify his senses. Such a person quickly advances in Krishna consciousness, whereas others who are too attached to material things find advancement very difficult. Purport. When Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was requested to explain the duty of a Vaishnava, a Krishna conscious person, he immediately said, asat-saṅga-tyāga-ei vaiṣṇava-ācāra. The first business of a Vaishnava is to give up the association of persons who are not devotees of Krishna and who are too attached to material things, wife, children, bank balance, and so on. Prahlada Maharaja also prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that he may avoid the association of non-devotees attached to the materialistic way of life. If he must be attached to someone, he prays to be attached only to a devotee. A devotee is not interested in unnecessarily increasing the demands of the senses for gratification. Of course, as long as one is in the material world, one must have a material body, and it must be maintained for executing devotional service. The body can be maintained very easily by eating Krishna Prasad, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 26. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti paritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Why should the menu be unnecessarily increased for the satisfaction of the tongue? Devotees should eat as simply as possible, otherwise attachment for material things will gradually increase, and the senses, being very strong, will soon require more and more material enjoyment. Then the real business of life, to advance in Krishna consciousness, will stop. Om Jnanativadandasya Gananjana Shalakya Chakshulam Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhakam Gridvachalam Pangam Langayate Ya Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinitanam Bancha Kapadri Bishta Kripa Sindhube Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's there's prayers, famous prayers by Lord Brahma, and he is saying there that as long as one doesn't become your devotee, he's praying to Krishna, then their houses remain prisons, and their family relationships remain like shackles. So he's saying that, in other words, they remain bound in ignorance and illusion as long as they don't become devotees. But for a devotee, their house isn't a prison, and their family ties are not shackles. But still, they have to be careful, because what is not a prison could become a prison easily. What is used for good purposes can very easily be used for evil purposes. Just like a knife, right? We're using knives daily to cut all types of vegetables and fruits and offer them to Krishna. It's a whole loving exchange, right? We're out of love and affection, we're cutting and cooking and offering. But somebody who loses control of their senses, of their mind, of the agitating agent of anger, they could use that knife and hurt somebody, right? Or themselves, or the body of somebody. Use it for violence. So that which was pleasant, which was good, which was being used for devotional service could just be used for evil purposes. So that which is not a prison can turn into a prison very easily. And practically everything's like that. Almost everything can be engaged in Krishna service. And in this way it is liberating to the soul. Or it could even be engaged not in Krishna service and is binding to the soul, binding to the living entity. So it's a matter of the person having the good fortune, or the good fortune to engage certain things properly. Because sometimes things may in the beginning be engaged properly, but later over time they're not engaged properly, and then they become binding agents. Just even such a transcendental spiritual thing as being a guru. I mean, it's an important, and it's necessary, and it's needed, and somebody has to do it, right? We're talking about a Diksha Guru here. But even that, I mean, somebody could just really, it's such a important, vital thing, service. But even that could be used for sense gratification. Whatever, adoration from followers or whatever, increasing the bank balance, right? Just like we were hearing earlier in the morning, during the morning announcement, that the spiritual master doesn't want the disciples' money. Of course, he may accept and engage in Krishna service in a God-conscious, Krishna-conscious way. But ultimately, what does the Guru want? The Guru wants the disciple to be engaged in pure devotional service, to surrender out of love and affection to Krishna. That's what the Guru wants. You can say, "Oh, Gurudev, here's a bunch of money. Keep on giving money," and then the Guru's thinking, "Okay, I'll use it in Krishna service, but all right, when are you going to, when are you going to engage in pure devotional service? That's what I want to see." That's what he wants to see. But here it's being mentioned that Prahlada Maharaja is saying that may we never feel attraction for the prison of family life, materialistic family life, home, wife, children, friends, bank balance, relatives, and so on. Srila Prabhupada would say that for a sannyasi, but also brahmacharis, and also vanaprasthas, because they're also in a bit of a renounced position. They said that when you go into a rich man's home, Prabhupada said specifically to sannyasis, he said he said every time I go into a rich man's home, he said I actually pray, "Krishna, please don't let me become attracted." So to pray to Krishna, please don't let me become attracted, and specifically a sannyasi or anyone really in a renounced position, they shouldn't think, "Oh yeah, if I would have kept on going, I could have had a situation like this, or I could still have a situation like this." They shouldn't think like that. Just so this is what Prahlada Maharaja is saying. Don't let me feel attraction, please. And he said, if we do have some attachment, let it be for the devotees. Let it be for the devotees whose only dear friend is Krishna. And then he's given a description of a person who is actually self-realized and who has controlled his mind is perfectly satisfied with the bare necessities of life. So the simple living, high thinking, especially in, you'd say, temple life or brahmachari life, it's actually really simple. Sometimes people think it's too simple. It's just because we're really more or less just going on with the bare necessities of life. And then if somebody is living outside, they have a little bit more scope to expand a little more, and maybe the bare necessities become are there, but they add, and kind of there's a little bit more scope. Brahmacharis also have some scope, but it's definitely not to the degree that somebody living outside has. Their ability to expand in their field of necessities or artificial necessities is less. But so it's simple living, high thinking. But a brahmachari won't be satisfied with the bare necessities of life and simple living automatically. They have to be experiencing some other pleasure. They have to be experiencing the pleasure of looking at Krishna. Means Radha Giridhari, right? Gazing at Radha Giridhari and offering prayers and kirtans and serving Radha Giridhari, cooking, cleaning, this, that, distributing books. They have to be experiencing some other pleasure, or else they won't. It's just a matter of time when they just won't be unsatisfied. Okay, I want more than my bare necessities. I want more, because this is just not satisfying to me. There's one Prabhupada disciple. I think his name Parividya. Anyways, he's an actor. It's quite, actors are very dramatic and right with the movements of their eyes, and of course, depending on what field of acting you're in, it's say less dramatic or more kind of real life. Like in movies, they try to make it more of a normal, real life kind of look to it. A lot of the times, of course, there's other ones that are not real life, the fictitious superhero movies and stuff. But in some acting, they really dramatic. They really make it dramatic, right? So he's an actor like that, with his eyes and speaking, and then there's piano in the background and everything. And so, anyways, he has a number of them. But I saw one recently, which I could send to some of the devotees. It's quite funny, actually. And he's a householder, but in this particular drama, he's dressed as a brahmachari. And it's a whole song he's singing. He's actually talking to himself, but of course there's a big audience there. So he's like, but he's like he's talking to himself, and he's going back and forth in his mind. Should I move out? Should I stay in the temple? And there's all these reasons why. This. No, but I'll stay in the temple because of this. And anyways, I can't do justice to his humor and wit, so you'll have to see it personally. But if we're feeling satisfied, then if somebody's feeling satisfied in their situation, then there's no need. The thought of changing the situation doesn't really enter their mind. And if it does, it's just another thought that doesn't really matter. Just like when someone's married, if they're satisfied with their spouse, of course, this is modern kind of conceptions, which we don't agree with. But if someone's satisfied with their spouse, then they'll think, okay, all right, I'll stay, right? There's no real thought of change. But if someone's not satisfied, all right, let's see who else is out there in the market, right? Let's open up my phone and click on one of the 1 million apps I have, or you could say the most common apps, whatever, Facebook, social, Instagram. Let's see the market. Let's see who's out there. Let's see who's more attractive than my spouse and who's more qualified. And sometimes people really go with that thought, and then it's actually sad, and then they reach out to that person, and that person's thinking, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. And then there's a whole what you call soap opera that goes on. But if someone's feeling satisfied, then it doesn't enter their mind. So a brahmachari who's living a simple life and doesn't have, you could say, some of this sense gratification that somebody has living outside, even devotees, like the sense gratification of maybe having, some estate or whatever, house or more possessions or something like that, then the only way that they could be satisfied with the bare necessities is if they're experiencing the nectar or the pleasure of Krishna consciousness. So that's the idea. We want to do that. And as Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the first business of a devotee, all devotees, is to give up the association of non-devotees. And why is that? Because the devotees are going this way, and the non-devotees are going this way. I mean, they're going opposite directions. So it only makes sense that if we want to go in a particular direction, then we should go with the devotees. Actually, that's what an army does. You could say there's the army of Maya, but the army of Maya is going a whole different direction. They're engaged in a whole different war, a whole different fight, which some of the agents are moving towards us, right? But the devotees, they're moving in a particular direction. And it's important to understand that and to align ourselves with other devotees, this company of other devotees, and then we're all moving in the right direction. Because in a battle, and as Srila Prabhupada said, we're in a battle. As much as we may not like that, as much as we may not like to admit that, as much as we're lovers and not fighters, Srila Prabhupada said we're in a battle. I mean, he said it like a bunch of times. And he would use war language, right? Like drop hundreds and millions of bombs into the laps of the conditioned souls. It means that's books. He would say, we're declaring war on the illusory energy. That's what he'd say. It's a battle. And anybody who's even tried to practice Krishna consciousness strictly or seriously, even for a day, will understand that it's a battle. So therefore, okay, we're in a battle, but we're not in a battle alone. It means there's other soldiers, there's other warriors, and that's other devotees. And what do soldiers and warriors do? They come together and they move, right, in the same direction. Or else it's dangerous for a soldier. Like there's a battle about to happen and they blow the conch, right? And then one soldier's like, he's like yawning and the other soldier's like looking at his phone, or another soldier's, whatever, smoking a joint or something. Then you have all the other ones rushing. Okay, they're rushing and they're fighting and they're going to make progress. Other ones could be sniped out really quick because they're not alert. They have to be very alert. So, but one of the reasons why we want to give up the association of non-devotees is that it's not conducive for us moving in the direction we want to move. They drag us down. So we want to be careful to avoid their association. And then Prabhupada's talking about prasadam, so patram pushpam. If one offers me with love, devotion, a leaf, water, flower, I'll accept it, as Krishna says. So those who are cooking, it's important to to try to maintain, to increase and maintain good consciousness. Actually, on the Radha Damodar bus party, Tamal Krishna Goswami, there was a time where all the devotees were having a hard time on the bus, and then Tamal Krishna Goswami said, "Okay, let us change the cook." So he changed the cook, and then after that, everybody started doing a lot better. Now, how do we see that? How do we analyze that? Well, we could analyze it in that, well, maybe the cook just wasn't a good cook, and everybody wasn't inspired by the prasadam, so they were having a hard time fighting with each other, this and that. So they changed the cook, and then it was a good cook, means devotional, and also knew the art. Then everybody's feeling quite satisfied. That's one way to analyze it. Another way to analyze it is that, in other words, maybe he was a good devotee, but just not a good cook, and then people weren't feeling inspired. Because you could be a good devotee and not a good cook. That's possible. Or another way to look at it is that maybe the person was a good devotee and was a good cook, but maybe it was just in not good consciousness, bad consciousness. Means a little in the modes or an illusion. Because sometimes we see that person could be a sincere person, but sometimes struggling, right, with, I don't know, anger or whatever, so many things, and then they're cooking and it's affecting everybody, their consciousness. So it's important that the cooks desire and strive for good consciousness. Good consciousness means it's unlimited, it can increase more and more and more, and then maintain that. Because it affects the devotees, actually. It's not like, well, I'm selfish and I want to be in bad consciousness and I want to think a bunch of non-Krishna conscious stuff when I'm cooking. And it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. Because our consciousness goes into the offering. Of course, it's offered to Krishna, and the pujari also, it's important for the pujari to be in good consciousness, or the pujaris, those who are offering, to try to offer with love and devotion, and because prasadam means that which is cooked with love and devotion, that which is offered with love and devotion, and that which is honored with love and devotion. So it's important that we try to keep the standards. Cleanliness, also very important. Wearing clean clothes and while cooking, and kitchen being clean, all these things are very important for deity worship, which a lot of deity worship consists of offering Krishna bhoga and then distributing it to the devotees as prasadam. So yeah, it's important. And we could also learn the art. I mean, there's many recipes, Yamuna Devi, there's so many wonderful recipes, and not all of them are complicated. Some of them a little bit more, but there's so many great recipes out there. No need to reinvent the wheel. They have such a thing, it's called rasa bas. You're mixing taste. In other words, certain things don't mix together. And then it's like, hey, let's reinvent the wheel. I can't think of an example off the top of my head. But I don't know, of course this is just absolutely ridiculous, but you put like bitter melon in the sweet rice or something. Yeah, I just wanted it, healthier, yeah. You get the milk healthy, right? You get the sugar, also healthy, rice, whatever it's, but or sweet, you get the sweetness, but then to get more health benefits for your liver, right? Put in some bitter melon. So that's mixing of tastes. So there's so many recipes, no need to reinvent the wheel, and devotees could learn those. it's also nice. There's many temples throughout the world who offer, you could say, they have special delicacies or special things they offer to the deities regularly. Like there was a temple in London known for their sandesh, and it wasn't just sandesh, but they would make all these like artistic designs on the sandesh. So they were known for that. So that's also there. Oh, let me cook something. Let me make something that Krishna doesn't have very much, and that we don't see very much, and that the devotees will like, and that Krishna will like, and let it be like a local New Govardhan, delicacy for Shishirada Giridhari. So there's so many opportunities to engage our creative powers in Krishna service. So we should try to utilize those. So clean clothes, clean kitchen, clean consciousness, right? Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it says that actually he wouldn't take any prasadam from anybody's house unless they chanted 64 rounds a day. He wouldn't go there. Which means that the devotees were very Krishna conscious, and then they would cook. So we should see it like that. That, okay, I'm cooking, for example, for the Krishna Lounge or the Sunday Feast or for the devotees, some preaching engagement. Let me try to be really Krishna conscious. Let me have good sadhana, right, before I go in. Let me do some reading. Let me do some chanting. Let me think about Krishna. And in the kitchen, let me think about Krishna. Let me hear the pastimes. Let me hear lectures. Let me chant Hare Krishna. And then really, really try. And then make the offering. And it will have actually more power. There's a reason why Srila Prabhupada's prasadam had so much power, because he was so Krishna conscious. And that makes devotees. And if somebody's not Krishna conscious, then it's like ordinary. They may taste it as just ordinary, actually. So, in other words, we kind of have to broaden our vision. Not that, okay, hey, well, this is my service, let me do it. But, well, your service is connected to people's spiritual lives. Your service is going to affect people's consciousness. Your service is going to affect the overall health of the temple, materially and spiritually. So you didn't just think, oh, it's just, it's just me. It's me and Krishna. No, it's not. It's you and Krishna and all the devotees and all the guests coming to the temple and people actually coming back to the temple. People follow their tongue. That's what Tamal Krishna Goswami said. He said, get a restaurant in Houston, people follow their tongue. So if you get really nice prasadam, then people will follow their tongue. And then they're engaging their tongue in Krishna service, and then they become devotees, actually. Like that story, which will end here, of this person in Tucson. He was not so interested, but he was coming to the restaurant regularly. And a lot of people like that restaurant, Tucson restaurant. Anyways, a devotee restaurant. So he was coming there, and he said he would spend hours every day, like a cow, grazing on the prasadam. And then gradually he started asking questions. Oh, what about this? What about that? And he started chanting. And then he became a devotee. And he's been a brahmachari for, I don't know, maybe 30 years now, 25 years, something like that. Parameshvara Prabhu. And he's a really good devotee and a really good book distributor. He's like a book distributing factory machine. He's just chants Hare Krishna in the morning very seriously, like a like a, his game is not to let his mind deviate an inch. That's his japa game. I'm not going to let my mind deviate an inch, because you get spiritual power like that. And he goes out on books, and he's like a walking book distribution factory. He's just like pumping out books, huge quantities. Srila Prabhupada's books, which enlighten people and educate people. So, anyways, he became a really good devotee from prasadam. This is so. And then lastly, Prabhupada's just saying, yeah, we have to be careful. Of course, sometimes devotees, they lament, oh, I take too much opulent prasadam, right? It's hard when the glavjamans come out. It's hard for me to resist, right? Why one? Live a little, right? How about 5? How about 10? How about 20, right? They're so small, Prabhu. Don't give me a hard time. Come on. Yeah. It's healthy, right? Anyways. So sometimes devotees lament, but it's prasadam. Better do that than go eat at Pizza Hut or whatever, right? Better. But of course, as Prabhupada's saying here, to try to as simple as possible, because the senses could become overwhelmed, the mind become overwhelmed with, too opulent, this and that. So we try to, control. Okay, does anybody have any questions, in-house questions or comments?
You could add not just better than Pizza Hut, but better than all those vegan restaurants too.
Yeah, I was going to mention that actually. So I think Mukunda Charana Prabhu was mentioning the vegan restaurant phenomenon, which you could say, of course, it's not meat, good, or fish or eggs. I think they do put a lot of onions and garlic in them, though, which is tamasic, and devotees don't take onions and garlic, or they shouldn't take onions and garlic. But nowadays, in modern civilization, it has become such a monster monster means such a powerful beast, this fast food industry. And also by fast food I mean restaurant, because ultimately it's also fast food. Everybody thinks it's so pure and just made right there, right? But so much of it is frozen. So much of it is because they think, oh yeah, I'll take a side of green beans and a baked potato, and they're microwaving things and taking things out of the freezer or whatever. So it's also fast food. Restaurants are fast food, and then you got the actual fast food places. But it's super artificial and unhealthy. What to speak of? We have no idea what those people. Of course, you have devotees, and they should be thinking about Krishna, and we give them the benefit of the doubt, and they're trying, right? And hopefully they are, and being Krishna conscious, and then that's affecting the food. But what to speak of these other restaurants? What are they conscious of? We don't even want to say in the temple room what they're conscious. In other words, their consciousness is very unclean. Their habits are very unclean. So if we eat what they produce at different restaurants, including vegan restaurants, then that will affect our consciousness negatively. It doesn't help our Krishna consciousness. So I was going to mention that, but it just slipped my mind and I went a different direction. But and again, the whole onion and garlic thing, that's also because people say, hey, well, it's vegan, what's the big deal? Well, it's not cooked by a devotee. So it can't be considered prasadam. Prasadam means that which is cooked by a devotee and offered by a devotee, and which in previous times it wasn't really an issue. That's why I'm saying you have this like monster fast food corporation going on, corporations. In previous times, people would just eat at home. It's like a normal thing to do. But nowadays, it's so common just to eat out all the time and to not eat at home. It's cheaper, maybe, not really cheaper, but easier, faster. So, but as Srila Prabhupada mentions, our devotees, they don't eat at hotels and restaurants and this and that. And I don't know. I always kind of couldn't fully grasp the attraction to it, because it's just, again, the people, we have no idea what those people are thinking. And their cleanliness. I mean, if you ever worked at a restaurant, sometimes these people, they may get mad. Like, I don't know why people go to restaurants and give the waiters hard times. I mean, that's like a really bad idea. Because you could get somebody who doesn't really care, and, they'll spit in the food or whatever, It's just really bad. So, but even aside from that, it's, again, we don't, what are these people's standards of cleanliness? They're like the opposite of a Brahmin. And to take food from those people is just like really bad idea for somebody who wants to be Krishna conscious. Anyways, you had some other.
Well, first I was thinking, you said that now people are, back, at one point people used to eat at home and now they all eat out. I was thinking actually, a lot more people are eating at home now because there's DoorDash. So they are eating at home. That's not true. But the other thing I was thinking was all
right, wise guy.
Kind of like what you were saying about, because first when you just, the reason I thought you should elaborate on it is because sometimes it's, I thought somebody could misinterpret and think, well, yes, you may come to the temple for a Sunday feast or something, or the prasadam that may be there may be very opulent, galubjaments, you can't control yourself, and so, well, hey, just be happy, at least it's not, Pizza Hut, because at least if you're going to eat junk food, or like heavy, opulent food, at least eat it with us.
Yeah.
But it's more important than that is, hey, better to, lose some control of your senses while taking prasadam than to have perfect control, eating at some perfectly healthy, restaurant or something where it's a money-making thing, or it's at least not about Krishna. Krishna's, not connected at all. And I was thinking of that, the line, or the statement, I guess it's Bhaktivedanta Swami saying it in Brahmacharya Handbook, but he says, because he's emphasizing, just like in this purport, Prabhupada said, devotees should eat as simply as possible. So in there he's also saying, especially all devotees should eat as simply as possible, but especially for brahmacharis if they want to stay a brahmachari.
Yeah.
But then he says that sometimes it may be difficult to control the senses, and it may be, the only sense gratification you really have. So he says, well, you should try to control the senses, do your best, make progress. But even when you, don't maybe lose control and you kind of overeat or something like that, or eat very opulent food, at least remember that it's better to eat too much prasadam than just the right amount of bhoga, is how he put it. I thought it was a nice line. So just like as you were saying, restaurants, there's so many reasons to avoid restaurants, but let's just say in an ideal, unrealistic world, everything's perfectly healthy, perfectly organic, real nice, meditating yoga society, cooks and everything, but it's just not connected to Krishna. It's served on, compostable plates and everything. We would still argue, better to come get a styrofoam bowl filled with, some, paneer sabji, non-organic paneer sabji from the Hare Krishna temple, because it's connected with Krishna. So now that we dismiss those things, we want to, we want it to be fresh, we want it to be cooked by good conscious people, not people who are angry or this or that, but priorities. First thing is it's offered to Krishna, and then from there, everything down to being really controlled and moderate and everything.
Yeah, that's the first important thing to offer, everything offered to Krishna. Yeah, we should just know the standard. Because some devotees will say, okay, that's a standard, but I can't follow it. I have attraction to it. I'm attached. I'm addicted. I can't give it up right now, hopefully in the future. Or maybe I'm traveling and under circumstances there's no temple, this and that, and I just have to do it. Of course, there's ways to get around everything, but some, give their reasons. But okay, people may give their reasons, but they should know the standard. The standard is not to do it. And in other words, not try to argue about how it's okay. Just accept that it's that's the standard, and anything below the standard is just, not, should ultimately, and we could say hopefully immediately, just be given up. But what do we say to devotees who they say, "Oh, I'm attracted"? What would anybody say here? If they say, "Hey, well, I understand." First of all, they should understand the standard. That's first point. But let's say they understand the standard, but they say, "I'm just attracted. I like going to," what's that place called in Ocean Beach? I was there yesterday. I'm just joking. It's called Plant Power, right? Yeah, the Plant Power is a restaurant. I've never been there before. I've never had anything. I'm saying in front of Radha Giri Dar. But some people say, well, what if they say, "I like going there. I'm a busy guy and I'm working hard." And yeah, easy for you brahmacharis to say, right? You got, I'm working 9 to 5, and I pick up my dinner there sometimes. What's the big deal? And I'm attracted to it. Okay, I know it's the standard's not to do it, but hey, out of practicality, and I'm attracted to it, so why not? So what would we say? Anybody have any idea? What would you say, Tyler?
I mean, strictly the thing is you wouldn't be able to offer.
You can come in. Yeah.
You wouldn't, even though it's very tasty and it's very nice and it's still vegetarian, you wouldn't be able to offer it. So, better make something simple that's offerable than even something that's very nice, that's convenient.
But what if somebody says they're really attached to it, or they really like it, and they can't give it up? What would you tell them?
They could probably make something very comparable to it. I guess that would be the challenge.
Oh, yeah?
Well, you like it that much, figure out what it is and see if you can try to make something like that.
Offer to Krishna.
That's ultimately offerable. Because that stuff for sure has onion and garlic at least in it in some way. That a lot of those plant-based foods, that's how they kind of make them palatable to the people that, don't eat that stuff.
So you're saying that if you really like it, just make it yourself.
Yeah. That was like with the Impossible Burger when we were looking at that. We're looking at the ingredients and we're like, we use a lot of these ingredients on their own. We don't have to put it together in this form, right?
Yeah.
Let's just stick to these whole foods that are part of it. But the convenience part's hard, right?
Or they say, "I don't have any time."
That's the hard part. That's why I don't have a good answer
Maybe
for.
we should tell them, move to a farm then.
Or,
Right?
You could just tell them, if you, like Tyler was saying, you could just make it. It's actually more rewarding, and then you feel better. It's like something. I think it's like there was a study shown a while back. It was like when you do something that you put time, where you're dopamine's kind of fired through, and so your brain is more stimulating. Instead of you're just trying to reward yourself without any work.
Yeah.
It's just it's not as gratifying.
So
you
it's
want
more rewarding just to make it.
Yeah, it's more rewarding to
spiritually
make
and
it.
materially.
Yeah, because you're okay,
But
I've
if
done.
they say they don't have any time, we'll just tell them, well, maybe you need to think about that. Maybe you need to retire, or maybe you need to, if you can.
Yeah.
Some people can retire and they don't. Maybe you need to retire, or maybe you need to get another job, or maybe you need to sleep less.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of sleeping 12 hours a day, maybe you sleep 6. You'll have you'll have 6 hours plus, right? 7 days a week, or.
Yeah, and I like what you said about that cooking thing, because it goes a long way. Where's mine? Because
Everything's possible if we want it. Not everything, within reason. If in other words, if we're determined, then we can do things. But if there's no determination, oh well, it's easier, it's practical, I'm addicted, oh okay, well then it's never going to change. So we have to want it, we have to be determined. So, yes, Janardhan Prabhu?
Concerning the taking of food cooked by non-devotees, Could you just elaborate a little bit on the part about that it's bad, just so that we have an understanding of the impact it has on us?
Okay. Well, yeah, it says that if we take food made by non-devotees or not spiritually advanced people, then it says that our mind becomes wicked. And it says we cannot remember Krishna. It becomes difficult. There's actually one devotee, they told me that they stopped having prasadam for like a while. And they said that they had a very difficult time. They had a really hard time remembering Krishna. Yeah, consciousness. Because prasadam it's not that it's very special. Why? Because it's cooked by devotees and offered with love and devotion and to Krishna, and then it's spiritualized. And if we take that, then our consciousness becomes spiritualized. Whereas if we just take regular food, our consciousness doesn't become spiritualized. Actually, it says that it acts as a binding agent, a binding force. We become bound more in illusion. So yeah, that's the importance of it. Yeah. So if we take food cooked with love and devotion offered to Krishna by devotees, then our consciousness expands. We become more Krishna conscious. Yeah. You had something?
Thank you for that spectacular class, Bhara. But you mentioned how traveling, things like that, and when we were flying back from Honolulu to San Diego, it was a 6-hour flight. So Maharaj, he wanted to bring some prasad with us.
Yeah.
And on the plane, they offered things like crackers, alcohol.
Biscuits.
Yeah, biscuits, soda. And, sometimes other people, they bring their own food. And we all know what burnt flesh smells like, it's nothing. But when Maharaj and I, when we were taking our prasadam, everyone, they were like, what's that smell? They were so full of spices and, it was very attractive to the nose, very palatable and things like that. And so I was just thinking how, the devotees, we have very nice prasadam, different varieties. And, the karmis or ordinary people, they'll never be able to get an opportunity to taste Krishna Prasad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's important, this prasadam distribution, so people get a real, you could say, taste for Krishna prasadam, food offered to Krishna. In Australia, they have so many restaurants there, and they're distributing a lot of prasadam, and it's affecting people spiritually. You had something?
Oh, well, this was when you were asking, what would you say to someone who says, well, I'm just attracted to it? And I was thinking, well, you can really only coddle someone so far. Like if somebody says, well, I'm just really attached to Spam. Like I grew up eating Spam. I just, my mother made it. I associated with her. She passed away when I was a kid. Spam, Spam, Spam. I really like it. And so they have something, they just like sincerely, if you want to use that term, they really are attached to it. But we say it's a food that's not only physically unhealthy, but it's karmically, it's just horrendous.
Yeah.
So they could say, well, I'm attached to it. And you could say, okay, well, I'll first explain that in terms of, your long-term benefit. It's really not in your interest, it's a really bad karma. And they say, okay, I understand, but I just can't give it up because I just like it so much, And they say, okay, well, how about I'll explain to you what's in it. And, you show them, videos of slaughterhouses. And not only that, but, what kind of parts go into the Spam. And they're like, okay, I get it, but it's just, it's just too good, And then, you can then explain that, okay, but even in terms of your short-term benefits, the health benefit, or the health, not benefits, but the disadvantages, the problems, the health issues that come from eating such foods, they say, okay, I understand, I understand long-term, I understand where it comes from, I understand all the nasty parts of it, I understand how it's going to even hurt me right now, but I just really like it. Well, then, you've kind of given them all the pieces, and you've told them, that, and you explain to them that you can't offer to Krishna, well, you can't please Krishna with it, and and you explain all of that, the person can still say, well, okay, but what do I do if I just still really like it, you know? Well, then you've kind of, you know, you've kind of exhausted everything you can, all of your options, and then it's really up to them to just, you know, then it's at that point, it's really up to them.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, kind of related to this topic today, there was a talk Bhakti Swami gave, and he was talking about overeating, or eating, not controlling the senses. And he was talking about even Krishna prasadam, you shouldn't eat, you know, devotees, you know, they shouldn't eat too much, and they shouldn't eat too rich prasadam, because that will also not be good for their own Krishna consciousness. And so one Vaishnavi asked, so I really liked what you said, but what do I do if I just, I still, you know, binge, you know, on, you know, even on prasadam? And he says, okay, well, I kind of just said, and he maybe says a little more. She's like, okay, so like, but what do I do if I just like, I just really like, you know, binging on prasadam, you know, and just can't really stop? He said, okay, well, you know, what am I supposed to do? There is a thing such as sincerity, you know. He said, in sincerity, I can't force it upon you, so I can give you all the information to help, you know, your intelligence control your mind, but at some point, you know, it's really with you. Maybe there's more than what I just said, but you can, there, at some point, though.
Yeah, there's many people who know, I mean, they know the standard and they know what's good and what's bad, right? But then it's a question of following it. Like Bilvamangala Thakur in his early, we won't get into the whole pastime, but in his early life he was just very sensually attached, right, to a, you know, materialistic woman, and he was a materialistic man. But he was completely not God conscious. But then this Chintamani, she told him something, and that just like you know, he had like a, what do you call that? A realization that, yeah, she's right. What am I doing with my life? I'm wasting my life. I have to change myself. I have to clean up my act. And he did it. Of course, he had some little issue on the way, but then eventually he did it. So sometimes people may know, but it kind of takes some time for, maybe something has to happen. I don't know, somebody says something to them, or there's some difficulty in their life or whatever, and then they start to realize. So yeah, anyways, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I just wanted to let you know there is one question pending on the Zoom.
Pending? Okay. Did you have something you'd like to say?
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of, I don't know if is the microphone necessary?
There's people listening online.
Oh, hey. Well, hello out there. In Ayurveda, they have a term called sa-ama, and that means with ama. So there's usually, in terms of willfully craving something that is harmful, that is not nourishing, that when you are so entrenched in that kind of negative loop, you crave more of that, like. And it's really fascinating to have the realization that not everyone, but like a majority of our culture, I mean, the culture is predominated on the concept of keeping people hooked on these cycles of temporary fleeting pleasures in terms of the meals, how they are, even like you were saying, after giving somebody all of these options on, you know, why this is not the best choice for you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, they still choose the fleeting pleasure of a few seconds across the taste buds, and how you get roped into those, and how much time is wasted just following those fleeting little momentary pleasures, because they seem like the reward for sacrificing everything else about yourself for someone else, or this perception that something else is demanding of you, that you separate yourself from Krishna.
Nice. Thank you. All right. Joseph, did you have something?
Just to share. I woke up this morning and Maharaj...
I woke up this morning too.
Yeah, and Maharaj and I were walking out the door, and I says, here we go to a spiritual war. And then you talked about what the spiritual war is, you know, Maya's there, and then there's this place, and the devotees, and, you know, you talked about the pitfalls of, you know, being a householder, and, you know, I can see where they are, and, you know, it's really nice to know all of that, because... Yeah, even when I was little, when I get mad, people go, "What's wrong?" "Oh, I'm going through a spiritual war or something." And it is. Since COVID started, people's lives changed. The world changed. They went on lockdown. I didn't. I was up in the Rockies, and I was free as an eagle. But I came back here and saw the reality, and I'm staying. I'm scared. And I'm glad I'm lining myself up with not just devotees, but a temple. And in a pretty nice place on the earth. There's the beach. I'm not looking at the party going on around me. I go to the beach every morning and put my feet in for a minute, just in case you know where I am while you're chanting, jumping up and down in here. Anyway, I love
Just
you
in
all.
case
And,
what? Just in case what?
What's that?
You said you put your feet in the water just
Oh,
in
yeah.
case
If
what?
I'm not in here jumping up and down and chanting in the morning, I'm over there at the
Oh.
beach. Yeah, I tend to drive off after Mongol Arti. But yeah, so that's part of my scope, my expanded scope. And I have some hobbies too that, a little distracting. And so those are, I'm not, hanging out with other people. I'm hanging out with only devotees, but maybe these hobbies could be a distraction. So we could talk about that maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Like, Prabhupada drove by a golf course one time. Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna, he was driving by and he looked at him, and he actually started to tear up. And he said, "Oh, these old men," he said, "they're just wasting their time." He said, "It's sad because there's so much to do spiritually, so much spiritual advancement to make, and they're just, hitting this golf ball, wasting time." So Prabhupada saw that as sad, meaning that it's sad that they don't have the education, or you say that they don't have the knowledge to do otherwise. There's so many other things to do besides that. So yeah, we have to be careful. I mean, there's hobbies, you could say maybe that could be, dovetailed, or for exercise or health or something like that. But yeah, we have to be careful. Instead of going skydiving 500 times, maybe you could have spent your time doing something.
Well, how about motorcycle riding?
You have
Exercise for your calves. It's good exercise for your legs.
Do you have a devotee on the back?
No,
Are you-
and
are
it
you
is good exercise, but
are you going to
it's a
distribute
distraction and it could get me killed. So I'm thinking twice about hobbies and being a householder. So that's why I want to be lined up, because the war is going to get harder and harder, and I just want to stay happy in the middle of all of it. So I love you all.
All right, we'll take one last. Vijay Krishna.
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. How come that simplicity is one of the austerities of the mind?
Simplicity is one of the austerities of the mind. Well, because the mind, the tendency of the mind, the material conditioned mind, is to want more and more and more and more and more. This is the uncontrolled mind. That's why the mind is considered an enemy. It can be an enemy because it's materially conditioned and it's wanting more and more and more. And the problem with that, greed, is that it never satisfies us, it never satisfies the soul, and then we remain in this perpetual unsatisfied state. And aside from being an unsatisfied state, we're wasting a lot of time just wanting and desiring and hankering and striving for whatever it may be. And in the meantime, all that time we're wasting, we could have engaged in spiritual activity. We could have become spiritually advanced. So simplicity means that it's an austerity of the mind, because we have to train our mind. Hey, be simple. Do not strive unnecessarily. Do not hanker unnecessarily for that which is not worth striving for or hankering for. Just be happy. Stop looking, right? They always say the grass is greener on the other side. Stop looking at all the other pastures. Just be satisfied. Be simple, my dear mind. Right? Like in a successful marriage, which there's not so many of those these days. Means 50% or more, now 60%, or is it 99% divorce rate? Which one? I don't know. Anyways, but in a successful marriage, the person, they have to train their mind, actually. Hey, don't always be looking everywhere. So similarly in spiritual life, it's also like that, because the mind's tendency may want to the tendency of the mind is want it more and more and more. So we have to control that, make our mind peaceful. Actually, we're happy with the simple things in life, right? We don't need so many complicated arrangements. So that's why the austerity of the mind is simplicity, because it's an austerity means it's difficult. Austerity means it's challenging. But over time, we train our mind, and it's not a challenge, and it's not difficult. The mind's just trained to be satisfied, to be peaceful. It's no longer austerity. Actually, it says that austerity is the wealth of the Brahmins, or the wealth of the devotees, that they actually like austerity. Means it's no longer a chore, it's no longer painful. Like getting up in the morning, for example. People think, oh, this is so terrible. Oh no, I want to sleep more, and if I could only have 8 more hours, I just slept 6 hours, but if I could only have 8 more hours, I'd be really satisfied, or whatever. Or 1 hour, whatever it may be, 30 minutes, 5 minutes, let me hit the snooze, right? But of course, I understand devotees, whatever, we stay up late sometimes, and we do want to, may want to rest longer, but ultimately the devotees are happy to get up. They're happy to go see Krishna in the morning. It's not like some terrible chore or something, some austerity. They like to do it. So that's what we have to train our mind to like, to live a simple life, to be happy with the simple things. So anyways, that's something about that.
Thank you, Balaram Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Very helpful answer. Haribol.
Jai.
Okay, I know it's late. This will be really quick, but I don't like my answer anymore. What I thought would be better, because I think it came across as kind of callous. I was thinking, actually, if someone were to ask, well, I can't give up this one thing, I think better, actually though, I think is you can say that first give them, try to help them give that one thing up. But then if not, then you can emphasize, or I do this actually, I try to emphasize, well, then just work on giving up the things that you can, which you haven't yet, but you can. And you'll be surprised because those things do make a difference on your mind, on your conditioning, and they do bring you out of the modes. And so, okay, you can't give up spam, give up these other things, coffee and these other things which you haven't given up yet, which you can. But you're just kind of like, well, I can't give that up, so I'm just going to give up, why try? Yeah. The thing is, if you work on the other things, then actually will become easier to give up that thing. And I was thinking with Allen Ginsberg also, he's telling Prabhupada saying, so you're coming to the temple at the time, and Allen Ginsberg says, yes, but I'm still eating meat. And Prabhupada said, that's okay. I was just surprised. He says, it's on that tape. He says, that's okay, just keep spending time with us. And it'll just automatically just kind of disappear from your life, something like that, Yeah. So it was nice. He said, that's the one thing I can't give up is meat, which is a big thing. Prabhupada says, just keep spending time with us and, follow everything else, and it'll become easy. Something like that.
Yeah, we add Krishna, and then everything else gradually follows. We're able to, give up which we should give up. Yeah, or they say, okay, you can't. The point is to try to make some steps. Like someone would say, well, I can't get up at whatever this time. Okay, well just get up an hour early. I can't do that. Okay, just 20 minutes, 1 minute. Just do something to make a little progress. So yeah, that's important because everybody can do something, right? As Bajrang Swami, he said there was one person, devotee, and he moved out of the temple and whatever, he was taking a bunch of drinking a lot. He's living out at Balboa Park, and then one devotee came by and said, whatever his name was, Earl or whatever. He said, Bhakta Earl, why are you doing this? Like, just come move back to the temple. He said, no, I can't do it. He said, all right, Earl, just give up drinking at least. I'm sorry, I can't do it. And he said, all right, Earl, where are you living? He said, I'm living in the women's bathroom, Balboa Park. He said, all right, Earl, move to the men's bathroom. And he said, okay, I could do that. So it's kind of... All right. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.